People talk about woke, they talk about it as if it's a social fad. Woke is not a social fad. Woke is not the left-leaning liberal lunatics waking up one morning and thinking that they're going to throw open their doors to self-harming policies for the United Kingdom. Woke is the product of government legislation and regulations, which requires the ostensible promotion of minority, ethnic, religious, sexual preference rights over and above, and if necessary, to the detriment of those of the majority. That's what woke is, and it comes through the regulatory requirement to promote it.
Yeah, I'm glad you say that, because you've been very strong on this, actually. But I think people really appreciate it. You've been very strong on the sort of anti-white racism. I don't think there's anything else to call it, really, of things like DEI. I mean, what else can you call it? It deliberately, systemically discriminates against certain groups of people by its nature. And so you've called that out quite a lot, which I think people appreciate. A lot of people are scared to do that. I've heard it a little bit more lately. People like Elon Musk talk about it, but it's not that common to talk about, is it?
No, but it's crucial that we understand what's causing the problem. There's no point talking about banks debanking people and saying, oh, well, the bank's gone all woke. That doesn't explain anything to the electorate. The electorate need to know that this is government policy, that this is produced through government regulations. What we need is to recognize the problem, which is a regulatory and legislative framework promoting these damaging social policies, which, by the way, are also very economically damaging because we're setting aside merit in favor of immutable physical characteristics and beliefs, rather than employing people on merit. So very damaging economically, but hugely damaging socially. This is a result of 25 years of government policy, and we've got to call it out.
Yeah. And do you see any progress with that? Because with DEI, it's one of the few areas where I feel like we're actually winning. You have people in the United States like Bill Ackman, pretty powerful sort of donor to the Democrats. He said to his preferred candidate, you better take away anything from, it seems as though he said that, he didn't officially put it like that, but his candidate took away any reference to DEI on his website. Elon Musk has been very bold against it. Lots of people seem to be quite against DEI. Even I saw Unilever the other day saying they're going to tone down their environmental and social programs. And I see articles like this all the time. We do headliners on GB News. A lot of the articles are sort of about toning down DEI. So do you think it's actually finally sort of being quietly put away?
I think people are beginning to realize it. And, we've got to keep calling it out until people fully realize it. I mean, DEI is one aspect of the damaging framework. The other aspect is net zero. And they're promoted through business as part of environmental social governance regulations. So if you're a public company, you're a regulated company, or indeed if you're a company that needs to be audited, and so you need an auditor to come in, you've got to comply with ESG regulations. And it's particularly interesting that it's, the Financial Reporting Council, which is the regulatory body for auditors, actuaries, and some other financial services businesses, they require their members to practice ESG, the accountants firms whom they regulate, which includes the E is net zero policies and the S is social justice, which is effectively the DEI, the DEI framework. They require their regulated entities to adopt those, but they further require that the entities that they regulate will only do business with other people who similarly have adopted ESG. So you've got a kind of transmission mechanism through the economy for the promotion of ESG, which is DEI and net zero. And 85%, it's a shocking statistic, 85% of executives who work for listed businesses, so businesses listed on the London Stock Exchange, have at least one measure of their remuneration linked to ESG.
Right.
And so they're forcing and incentivizing at the same time executives in public companies to adopt this kind of thing. And it's gone wholesale right across the economic as well as institutional framework of the United Kingdom. So what we have is not just businesses now practicing ESG across the whole landscape, But institutions such as Oxford, Cambridge, all our educational establishments, the armed forces, the Metropolitan Police, one of the reasons I think they find it so challenging dealing with the anti-Israeli marches is because it's been drilled into them to promote DEI, and they can't see they can't see the wood for the trees. They can't identify the fact that the prejudice that they expressed the other day, the overt prejudice that they expressed the other day against that Jewish gentleman who wanted to walk in amongst the Palestinian marches, is as that's just straight out prejudice. I mean, how could the Met even begin to think that way? And Rowley's still defending the position.
Yeah, I feel bad for the individual police officers because what they're doing, they're following the ideology that trickles down to them.
Absolutely.
Which will be sort of vaguely pro-Palestinian, but it will also be. It just has a sort of the term anarcho-tyranny is quite useful these days, which is you punish the innocent and you allow criminals to go free. This is the system we're under for some reason. And the police, they're bound to go along with whatever they're told to do. So they are in an impossible position. I do feel sympathy for the individual officers. But you're right, it ends up with absurd things like saying to someone you're openly Jewish and punishing the person who, when I say anarcho-tyranny, you're punishing the person who's just stood there because he might inflame the angry mob. But it's the mob who are the criminals or potential criminals.
Absolutely.
Not you can't arrest someone for their own safety. This is madness. So that's where we are.
And, it's a breakdown. The society's breaking down because of the prejudice that is being regulated into existence, embedded through regulation.
Right.
You can't expect, as you rightly say, an officer in the Met to be able to do anything other than what he's taught. If he's taught that this is the right way to behave. We had the RAF the other day recruiting fighter pilots based on whether they were diverse or not.
The phrase useless white males was used.
Yeah.
Because they didn't help their diversity quotas. Imagine that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Who do you want flying jets? I want the best pilots.
I know. And then it's sign up for war. Where's all the conscription? It's like, well, you told us all you didn't want us. And it's incredible. And the police would have a lot more sympathy if they were seen to be on the side of the people as they perhaps were at times in the past. Now they're seen to be against the people because the prevailing regime, as I like to call it, is against the people.